All right, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. And first of all, let me introduce myself. Of course, I've given you guys some cards that kind of like let you know some of the other things that I do. I am by trade a behavior specialist. I work with youth that have emotional behavior disorder. And right now I am in Clayton County Schools. And one of the things that I am charged with is to teach some of those students that you have heard about that have crises situations in the classroom. And my job is to get them to where they can function in the general ed classroom. And I'm pretty good at it. You know, I've been doing it for about 11 years, and at least 80% of my students over that time have graduated. I think I've had like 5 graduation classes, and at least 80% of them have graduated, and it's simply because I do things that everybody else don't. Okay? And so we'll talk about a little bit of those things as well today. One of the things that I want to because I know we have we have counselors here. Do we have any administrators here? No administrators? Okay, but counselors, you know, that's good. I also do classroom management training as well. I teach teachers how to use strategies that will help them to be able to manage the classroom well, because you can have all these great lesson plans, the lesson is rigorous, you know, it's engaging, it's relevant, but you're always going to have that student that's not going to comply. Okay? And I show you how to get that student to comply. Okay? And I've been doing it in the EBD self-contained classroom. I get my students to comply. And you know, this past 2 years, I did my first 10 years in Henry County. And I left Henry County because I wanted to see my strategies work in the trenches. And so when I say in the trenches, DeKalb County and Clayton County, that is in the trenches. And so my last year, I went to DeKalb County, and I wanted to see my strategies work in DeKalb County. And sure enough, 4 weeks, I had that classroom as one of the best classrooms in the whole school. This year, I started the new year in Clayton County. Sure enough, within the first 3 weeks, I had that classroom. So now, it is one of the best classrooms in the school building. If you go to other classes, just walk down the hall. You will see kids that are rude, fighting, cursing, you know, whatever, you can name it. That's what they're doing. But when you come into my classroom, you see students that are engaged, that are learning. And it's simply because, you know, I do things that everybody else don't. Okay? So, that's not what I'm here to talk to you about today, but it's eventually going to go into some of those things. I'm here to talk to you about the family experience when dealing with youth with not emotional behavior disorder. It's one of the disabilities for mental health illness as well, but just youth that have to live with, you know, mental health illness. Okay, and I have some experience. Now, first of all, I want to talk about my wife. You know, my wife, she's not a youth, but you know, 5 years ago, she's experienced a traumatic situation in her life. Everything was going well. I just won a state title, Eagles Landing High School, you know, because I was a basketball coach as well. And that was one of my goals, was to win a state title. And so my group actually did that in 2013. Things were going well in 2014. You know, my wife's business was doing well. You know, we just bought our dream house. You know, everything was going well. And so we had just dropped our granddaughter off, and we're sitting at the light waiting for our turn to go. Well, the person behind us didn't want to wait. And so they crashed into the car on my wife's side. My wife has not worked since. She is now disabled. So overnight, she went from being a person that has worked all of her life, businesses thriving, doing well, to now being disabled. So it took her to a dark place. You know, there were times when, you know, we just driving up 75, and she actually was trying to open the door to jump out of the car. And I was like, wow, this is something. Now, I've been working with students that have, you know, these kind of situations, mental health illness, but, you know, to actually experience it myself, you know, it kind of caught me off guard. And so I knew then that life was going to be a little bit different for me. You know, so one of the things that I know, though, with my students is that many of them come to the classroom and they don't believe that they have the ability to reach success at a great level because they don't have those models in the home. They don't have parents that are doctors. They don't have parents that are lawyers, uncles. You know, most of them are like me. I didn't see those things when I was coming up in the projects in Atlanta. And so, you know, they don't have the models, so they come to the classroom and they don't feel like they have the ability to do great things. Well, my wife, she always asked the question, why didn't God just let me die? Because she feels like she has no value anymore because she can't do the things that she's been doing for years all of a sudden. So I knew that I had to do something. And so I learned about this organization called NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. And they had groups that were meeting. You know, it started out, it was just like 5 or 6 people. You know, and I had to get her in that group because I knew I had to get her to where she felt valuable again. She felt like she was needed again. And so, true enough, we joined NAMI, and my wife got really involved, and it changed her life. Changed her life. We went from having one of the smallest, and we were not even affiliated. As a matter of fact, we had to go up under the cab counter for years, and we just became affiliated about 3 weeks ago, and it's because of the work that my wife put in. We went from raising about $500 for the NAMI walk that we do every single year to raise money for NAMI to this year we was well over $10,000. And the reason being is because of her. So I had to find a way to let her know that she was still valuable. Part of the things that I have to do with my students, I have to show them that they still can be successful at high levels. Okay? So I'm not talking about my wife, but I do want to talk about some people that are in my life that have, you know, unfortunately been declared as having a mental health illness. Okay, this is not the one that I had, but...
Oh, they gave you a different one?
They did, but it's okay.
Do you have the thumb drive?
No, that's okay. That's okay. We'll be good. We'll be good. We'll be good. Okay, activities. Well, we're not going to do this activity right here because I don't know what it is.
We found out that word in that one, the developmental had something different too.
Yeah, yeah. But it's all good. It's all good. We good. I have one right here. Not to worry. You know, when you do what I do, you have to be prepared for, you know, things not going the way that they should go. And then when you're dealing with students that I deal with, man, they will not wait. You have to come up with something really fast, you know. You know, because if you wait too long, the room will be destroyed. So I have to come up with something really fast. So don't worry, it's here. So the impact on mental illness now. And I'm pretty sure you guys have already talked about that because you've already shared some things that I live, you know, almost on a daily basis, especially the first 3 weeks of class. You know, when I have a new group of students, they don't know me, I don't know them. So it's always a filling out process. You know, so a lot of those things that you guys have already been over. But the impact on mental illness, everybody is affected. Everybody. Because we all know somebody you know, a family member, a friend of a friend. We all know somebody that suffered some type of mental illness. As a matter of fact, it says, the statistics tell us that the number one reason, you know, for people missing work, the number one reason for people losing jobs is because of depression. Okay? Depression is a mental health illness. So that's why it's so important for us to talk about it, so important for us to understand how to recognize if there's potential for somebody that they're in a crisis and how to de-escalate that person. So today I'm going to talk about two people, TJ and Topaz. TJ and Topaz. By the time I'm done, you're going to know who TJ and Topaz are. You know, you're going to be asking me, man, how's TJ doing? You know, how's Topaz doing? But TJ is my grandson. A couple of years ago, his mom, they had to come back and live with me. Don't you just hate it when you get rid of them? You get rid of them and all of a sudden they say, Dad, I'm having a difficult situation. I got to come back. And you say, oh, Lord, why? But they had to come back, right? And so TJ at the time TJ was 4 years old. He was just going into pre-K. And so up until that time, everything was normal. Everything was good, no problems out of TJ. But something happened when he got in preschool. One day I received a call, and the teacher was saying, Mr. Wortham, your grandson has just destroyed the class, and right now he's refusing to do anything that we want him to do. And I said, you mean my grandson? Taquez is acting like this? Yes, he's acting like this. And so I could not leave my job at the time, so I called his mom and said, hey, you need to go check on TJ. Apparently they couldn't get you need to go check on him. And so sure enough, she goes to the school, and he has destroyed the classroom just like it said. And so that was the first time we realized that maybe something wasn't right. Now, during pre-K, it didn't happen that often. You know, it was a few times, you know, and we were like, summer came, we got over that, right? Well, he enters kindergarten the next year. And almost immediately, the call started. TJ ran out of the school building. Okay, we had to call the police. TJ is tearing up the classroom. TJ is doing this, TJ is doing that. And now his mom, which is millennial, and you know, I like to call myself the millennial guru because I had the pleasure of teaching the millennials and my kids. All three of them are millennials. But also I get a chance to teach their kids as well, because that's who we're teaching now. If you're in counselors, you're dealing with the millennials kids. And so they're different. They are different. And if you don't know, one of the reasons I'm so successful is because I understand that difference. And I understand that authoritarian parenting style is not going to work with the millennials. You know, it's just not. Permissive parenting style is not going to work with the millennials. And so my daughter is authoritarian. You know, I had some of that in me. I have to admit it, but I was a little bit more balanced, you know, because I did let them have some say-so. My wife was all authoritarian. You know, it was the way I said, this is what you're going to do. You're in my house. I brought you in the world. I'll take you out. If you say that, you're authoritarian. And so my daughter was authoritarian. So she would handle it, you know, she would get it. But the behavior didn't stop. Behavior didn't stop. And so that's the one thing that I understood and learned about the millennials is they don't understand. You know, when we say we've been brought up to say that, you know, the recipe for disaster is to keep doing the same things you've been doing and expecting different results. Well, the millennials, they want to keep doing things the same way, you know, and eventually it'll get right, you know, and that was her that was the way she did things. But he got worse. And so the last time she eventually, came to me and said, Dad, I got a place now. I'm doing good. I'm getting ready to move out. And I walked to my room and I said, yes, sir! You know how you do it. You can't do it in front of your kids. You can't let them know you're that excited about the move, right? So I had to walk in the room and, celebrate. But, the last time we got a call and, I went to the house. She said, Dad, he did the same thing. I'm getting ready to get him. And I said, Erica, no, you're not going to do it this time. It's not working. Okay, we have to do something that is different. And so I did. I went to the house, and she said, well, if you take him, you're going to have to take care of him. And sure enough, we got, the guardianship, temporary guardianship. Now, at this time, the school does what the school do. The school, once they recognize that it might be some kind of problem, they go through their process, psychologicals. I'm pretty sure all of my counselors understand what psychologicals are. And so they had already asked for permission to go through the process because they were like me. I suspected that maybe he was emotional behavior disorder because I've been working with these kids, all of my life. And because I understand that over the years, 80% of my students that are in my classroom have either authoritarian parents or they have permissive parents. And so, even though, I don't have the data to say it, but I know that it has something to do with it. And plus, one of the things that we know that causes emotional behavior disorder is inconsistent parenting. And so I suspected it. But, same thing that I do with my students, we got him in the home and we put him under structure. I taught him, some skills, just like I do with my students. I teach them social skills and I teach them growth mindset. Okay? Every Tuesday and Thursday we do mindset techniques. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we do social skills. Okay? We do it every single day. I'm consistent with it. It's not going to change. The kids complain the first couple of weeks, and I let them know that this is how it's going to be. You might as well get used to it because I'm not changing, so that means you have to. And so we did the same thing with him. We put him under structure. And if anybody knows in the school, nothing happens quick. It's not a short process. It takes some time. And so by the time we went to the meeting, they were not able to say that he was EBD because he did not have any of the symptoms. He was not doing any of the things. That's one thing we have to have. We had to have documented behavior before we can say that they're EBD. Well, they didn't have the behaviors, but we did go and get an independent psych done on our own, and we found out that he was ADHD. Okay, so with that, and I could see that because he had a lot of energy, I could see that. So with that, we put TJ on some medicine, and by the end of the year, and this is the truth. I don't lie. This kid was the comeback kid of the year, comeback student of the year. So and it was because me and my wife, we decided to take charge of that situation. I'm experienced with dealing with students that have behavior issues, and we basically did the same thing. And because of that, TJ, we still have custody of him right now, and he's done well. Has not had the EBD things that he had in the past. Now, I want to talk about Topaz's real. Topaz, she is my niece. Okay, Topaz again. No problems. She went all the way to the 4th grade. No problems. Great student, popular, everybody loved her, cheerleader. But something happened when she got in the 4th grade. Things started to happen, and my sister started noticing things. The first thing that happened is when she was a cheerleader, and my sister took her to practice. And, Topaz was having just a really, really tough time. She couldn't remember her cheers, the same cheers that she had been doing for, quite some time. She couldn't remember her cheers, and she got so frustrated that she started hitting her leg. And I mean, she wasn't just hitting, she was pounding. And, you know, my sister, she was able to calm her down, you know, and she said, okay, you're good. You're going to be at state practice, right? And her son was playing football, so she was between two places. She said, you're good, right? And so she left her at cheerleading practice. She left to go be with her son and make sure everything was good at football practice. Well, before she can basically get out of the parking lot, they were calling her saying, hey, you need to come get her. Something is seriously not right. Okay? And so she gets to the school to pick her up, and she noticed that she has a deep, serious bruise on her leg, where she had just been pounding and pounding and pounding her leg. Okay? Now, during school, within this was like the first 3 weeks of school, she's in school, and, you know, the teachers started noticing that she was getting so frustrated that she was praying. You know, they say she would go pray. She would say, Lord, help me, help me, help me. I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. You know, and so, you know, it was getting really serious. Now, one of these things it talks about is how the parents are so embarrassed at times, you know, that they don't want to let anybody know. Okay? So my sister went basically a year with her daughter doing these things that she was afraid to tell anybody in the family. And she didn't tell anybody. And I just talked to her about the whole situation a couple of weeks ago because I wanted to interview her because she had information that I can share with people because that's what NAMI is all about. NAMI is all about, we want people that suffer from mental health illnesses to be able to live as normal and effective life as possible because we know that you can still reach a high level of success even if you have a mental health illness. Okay? You have to have supports, but we know that it can happen. And so as I began to talk to her, she said, Eric, I didn't share it with anybody because I was so embarrassed. You know, I didn't want people to know. This girl went from being the most popular young lady in school to being that person now that nobody wants to be around. Okay? Her best friends, parents told her, no, she cannot come over our house again. You know, so you can just imagine, you know, what my sister was going through. Okay? And one of the reasons that I wanted to speak to her is because I just believe that, you know, that God sends us through things so that we can be able to help people that are going through well, because she didn't know what to do. She did. She was afraid to call 911 because she know, she'd say the police, you know. And I'm not one of those. I think that our law enforcement personnel, to the most part, are doing a great job because number one, I think that law enforcement is the second hardest job in America. You know what I think is number one? Teaching. Teaching, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Okay? So, you know, I understood, but I wanted her to know that, you know, you have to, the stigma that is out about people with mental health illnesses, we have to be able to overcome those things. And so, my sister also is authoritarian, and she, you know, she believes in spanking a lot. And with somebody that was in her condition, it only made the situation worse. Okay? And she went to the church. Instead of taking her to the hospital, instead of calling 911, she was going to the church, had the church to pray the demons out of her, you know, and then everything would be all right. Well, guess what? Things did not get all right. And the last time she took her daughter to the church for them to pray for her, they sat her down and said, look, this girl has to go to a hospital. We believe in prayer and everything like that, but there are some times when you have to go to a specialist. And she eventually took her daughter to see a specialist. And the bottom line is she ended up being diagnosed with autism. That's the first thing. And I said, yes, that's about right. Because she would always call me to let me know what the doctors were saying. I said, yeah, that's about right, autism. But then we found out too that she was schizoaffective. And so that's where the voices, the hearing things, the being paranoid, all of those things were coming from her being schizoaffective. Right? Now, the good thing about it though is once we know what is going on with our loved one, we can help them. We can give them the support they need. But until then, when we are in denial, because that's what a lot of family members do, we deny it. We start blaming ourselves, and she went through all of those things. She blamed herself. She said, Eric, I started praying and asking God, what did I do that my daughter would have such a condition? And I had to let her know that sometimes good people suffer. We do. Sometimes good people go through things. I was addicted to drugs. And you'll see on my bio that it tells you that I started when I was 10 years old. I was living in a project. And at that time, nobody thought it was odd that a young boy, 10 years old, smoking weed, drinking all the time, because it was a common thing that happened, in the projects where I came from. And I didn't know about help. I didn't know about rehab and things like that. And so, what I did eventually when I overcame my situation, I wrote a book called From Dependence to Freedom, But I Still Must Fight. And guess what that book is about? It's about my experiences in helping young people that are going through addictions learn how to overcome it. Okay? And so that's the angle that I wanted her to understand, is that sometimes we go through things, but our experiences help other people be able to make it. Because she went through this thing and she did not know what to do. And she also didn't open up to anybody as well. But when she got to the point where she could no longer handle it, she almost lost her own mind. She called me and she said, Eric, I want to be honest with you, brother, because you're the only one that I know that's not going to go tell everybody in the whole world what's going on. And I said, Tammy, we have to go get her some support. First of all, we got to find out what's going on with her, and then we have to get her some support. Okay? And so that's the first thing that has to happen with families that have a family member that's suffering with a mental health illness. We have to come to a place where we accept the fact that something is different. They may have a mental health illness. And it's when we come to that conclusion that we're able to do the things that we need to do to support them and help them be successful. Okay? Do anybody in here know anybody that's successful that have a mental health illness? Yes, I know several. Bipolar, schizophrenia. A lot of people in the Henry County chapter of NAMI. We have lawyers, doctors, educators, you name it. We have people that are in that group that are they're reaching success at high levels because they understand how to work with their doctors and they understand how to get the support that they need to be successful. So she had to learn how to accept the fact that Topaz had a mental health illness and that it was okay, that there was nothing wrong with her having a mental health illness, and it's not the end of the world because she has a mental health illness, and that she still can reach her level of success even with a mental health illness. It's not the end of the world. It's not. The one thing that get parents lit up is when I go to an IEP meeting and they're crying, and I meet them for the first time and I say, no, this is not the end of the world for your son. If you work with me, me and you together can get him to where he will be successful. And guess what? 80% of my students graduate from high school. Okay? And some of them go on to go to college. But the reason I celebrate the 80% because students with emotional behavior disorder, if you look at the statistics, it will say only 20% of them graduate from high school. Okay? And I have a percentage that is way higher. So it comes because we have to learn how to accept, that something is going wrong. And then we have to be able to get the right treatment. Now, I'm going to tell you about TJ. Now, with TJ, it was pretty easy. We took him to see a therapist. Now, the first therapist that we went to, it was not the right therapist because it was an old school type therapist. And again, millennials and their babies, Generation Z, they don't respond well to old school. And if you don't know that, I'm here to tell you they don't. Okay, so the first therapist, he was making me mad. And I'm saying, because I have to be in the meetings with him, I'm like, man, what are you doing? And I wanted to take over his meetings. And so I had to, I had to be knowledgeable enough to know that this treatment was not working for TJ. And so I had to go and find somebody that could work with him and get him to where he needed to be. Okay, so the treatment is not easy because we have to make ourselves knowledgeable. We have to make ourselves aware of what, if they say they got to take medicine, because sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. Especially if you ADHD like he was and he was bouncing on walls all over the place, the teachers can't teach him. Okay, the teachers can't teach him. Despite what my daughter said, I don't want him to be having all that medicine, my baby. Forget you. I want him to be successful. She's not crying about the medicine now because he's doing good and playing basketball now. Just played in his first game this Saturday and hit a three-pointer just like he knew what he was doing. Just stepped into a wham. Hey, she's not mad about the medicine now. But we have to do what we have to do to help our loved ones so that they can be successful. So the treatment, for TJ, is still going pretty well. He's doing well. Well, with Topaz, Tammy, it was difficult because number one, the insurance company, she had problems with the insurance company. She finally got to the point where she would call 911 and they would have to come get her, put her in the hospital. The hospital would fill her with a lot of medicine, have her walking around looking like a zombie, and then they sign off and say, she's good. Send her home. Why? Because the insurance company say, well, we won't let you do this for so many days. And so they send the kids home and they have not dealt with the situation. They have not. That's the problem that we have in Clayton County right now. We have people that's over the EBD program. Now, they don't have to come to my class, but my class is one of the only middle schools that is thriving. Everybody else, you go into one of those middle school classrooms in Clayton County, man, these kids are throwing chairs at each other, they're cussing each other out, they're fighting. And it's all they're doing is the people that's over the program, they're coming to put fires out. But you have to put things in place so the fires won't ignite in the first place. Okay? And so that's the thing that has to happen. So she was she went from hospital to hospital. The poor girl had been to Savannah, to Macon, to LaGrange. She's been all over the place. And it's a struggle for her mother because she has to drive. She lives in DeKalb County and she has to drive her to all these places and leave her baby in this facility, knowing that most of them, all they're going to do is give her medication, have her walking around looking like a zombie, and then let her go, without helping her fix the problem. Okay, so she had a difficult time. She went on, and then when she was able to she finally got the insurance company to say, hey, yep, she needs to be in a long-term health facility so we can help her out. Then, she had a problem with the hospitals. The hospitals wanted her to give up her rights, her parental rights, and she was not interested in doing that. She wanted to have a part to play in her daughter's recovery. And I told her when she talked, I said, no, don't sign your rights over. You have to know what they are doing. Because doctors are good, but sometimes we have to know our loved ones, and we look at what these things are doing to our loved ones. I do that all the time. If I get a parent, I finally convince them, say, hey, Johnny needs to take some medication so I can teach him the strategies that he needs to be successful. And when I finally am able to reach them and they start giving them the medicine, and he comes in and he's like a zombie, I say, no, Mom, you need to go back to the doctor and tell them that either that dosage is too high or we need to try another medication. Because I don't want them to be zombie-type. You know, I want them to be effective. I want them to learn. I want them to be successful. Okay? And sometimes as a family member, that's what they have to go through. They have to go through the process of learning and understanding what the medications do and how, you know, their loved one is on a normal basis. You have to know them so you can know what to tell the doctor. Okay? Your loved one having a mental health illness is not the time for you to just hand them over to the doctor. You have to participate. Okay? Just like your parents, that's the number one thing. That's number one. My 5 key components when I do the classroom management piece with teachers, number 1 is develop a relationship with the students and the parents. That's number 1. And the only difference with me is I show you how to do that. And I don't just tell you that's what you do. I show you, I walk through you how to do that. I give you some strategies to use so that you can develop that relationship with the parent. Because you got to have both parent, you know, and the kid believing that you have their best interest at heart. Right? I've been into a lot of meetings where the parent felt frustrated because the school was not doing everything she felt like they needed to do. And I had to be the one to say, Mom, I don't know what they've been doing here in the past, but I can assure you that if you work with me, your son is going to do well. Okay? And so I don't write students up. I don't send them to the office. That's why principals love me, because I deal with everything in-house. Okay? My students never go to the office. Have there been 1 or 2 situations where something has happened and, you know, we had to maybe call the police, law enforcement? It has. It has. But it's been very few times for that to happen. Okay? Over the past few years, I haven't even had to restrain students. Haven't had to restrain a student in Clayton County, believe it or not. Didn't restrain a student in DeKalb County, believe it or not. Okay? And it's because, you know, number 1, I'm working with the parents. And that's the same thing that we have to do when we have people, family members, loved ones, friends that have mental health illnesses. We got to take it upon ourselves to make sure that we understand their condition, that we understand the treatments for it, and that we understand our loved one. Because when we do that, they're going to benefit. Okay? Our loved one will benefit because of the knowledge that we have attained to help them to learn how to be successful. Because to me, that's all it's about. Everything that you see that I do, if you go to my webpage, everything that I'm doing is talking about how to help the below average and average person learn that they have above average potential to be successful. That's what it's all about, because I believe everybody can learn. I believe everybody can reach their level of success. Hey, how do I know? Because I see it all the time. You know, I show. We just looked at a video before I came here. I did a half a day at school, and you know, when we do our mindset and when we do our social skills, I always have a video. And today we looked at a video of a young man that can't. You know, he's blind, but he uses. He's like the dolphin. He used the vibration. He still can play games and really good at it. And I saw the reporter walk with him down the street, and he was able to tell the trash can right there, mailbox right there. Okay? And he is blind, totally blind. So I know that everybody can be successful, even people that have mental health illness. And so, we have to be able to understand the treatments, that our loved ones will be receiving. And also having coping skills. How do we cope with our loved ones having to live with the mental health illness? Now, it changes your life, because you just think about me and my wife. We had an empty nest. Okay? 3,800 square feet of house. And it was just me and her. We could walk around any way that we wanted to. But now all of a sudden we can't. Life has changed. Okay, now I have to go back to when I had my daughters and my son. We go to basketball games now. Okay, I have to go to practice, take them to practice, and still do some of the things that I do. But how am I coping? Because I know that he's doing great. And I know the reason that he's doing great is because I made the sacrifices. Me and my wife have made the sacrifices to help him. And then not only is it helping him, it helps her. Because now she has somebody that's depending on her as well. Okay, so learning how to cope with, the situation with my sister. There are times when they used to walk on pins and needles because somebody that is schizo-affective, this girl have literally punched holes in the walls, kicked out windows. She's been in the back of the car when she had a meltdown and she ripped out the back seats. And there's been times when she thought she was going to kick the windows out and she had to pull over to the side. So she had to learn how to cope. Thank God that now, they have gotten her the right medications now, and that took some time getting that, and they have her in a long-term treatment facility now. And she's doing good. She just came home for the Thanksgiving break. Now, she had to take her back that Friday, and she didn't want to go back, but she's doing well because they're teaching her strategies now. They're just not pumping her with medicine, but they're teaching her strategies, and then they wean her off the medicine, because that's what I do. My parents, when they tell me, I don't want my son to be on that medicine, I say, I don't either. But if you work with me, and we work together, we can get them to wean him off the medication. But right now he has too much going on, and he's not going to be able to be stable enough for me to help him out unless you get the medication. And we go through the process of getting them out. So, understanding the treatment, coping, understanding and having the skills to be able to cope with your family member. And you got to understand that you always have to keep hope. Always have to keep hope. The one thing that I noticed about the movie Will Smith, one of the best movies to me, was Pursuit of Happiness. And that's based on a real life story. And the guy that was homeless, he said the whole time that he was homeless, he never felt hopeless. So I was sleeping on the bathroom floors, but I still had hope. I still believed that something was going to happen good for me to climb out of it. And that's one of the skills. We have to continue to believe that things are going to get better. But they're not going to get better if we don't do anything. We have to do things. We have to make ourselves knowledgeable. We have to love on our loved ones, and we have to get them the support that they need so that they can be successful. And we don't want them to just be there. Okay? We don't want them to live lives where, they're not being effective. We want them to live, an effective, productive life. And that's the key. That's what NAMI offers. NAMI teach strategies, skills, and they give support to help people that suffer from mental health illness be able to cope and live an effective life. Okay? So, understanding, that we have to understand treatment. And again, we have to know And you guys are counselors, and the reason I'm saying this is because you have the ability to affect parents because they're going to come to you. You know, I don't know if you guys are in IEP meetings, but I actually invite my counselor to the IEP meetings because it's so many of them are so intense because I'm dealing with parents that are frustrated that nothing is happening with their kid and they don't feel like they're getting the support that they need. And so I have to invite them in as well. And we work together to help that parent understand that I have your son and your daughter's best interest at heart. And they buy into it. And once they buy into it, that's why I'm so effective. Okay? Because I got parents, you know, that buy into the fact that I am there to help their kids get better. All right? And so that's TJ. That's Topaz. TJ, again, is doing excellent. Just played his first basketball game this Saturday. You know, we keep him busy. We keep him doing things. He's learning how to have that growth mindset that we believe that we can do anything if we learn how to embrace challenges. Because that's another thing that I had to teach him. You know, he thought he knew everything and he'd get frustrated when he come against something that he don't know. And I had to teach him, it's okay, man. Failure is okay as long as we learn from the mistakes and the failures. Okay, failure help us to get better. Because once we fail, it makes us work harder to try to figure out how to get it right. So I had to teach him. It's okay, man. Even playing basketball, he didn't know how to play because I didn't have time to teach him, even though I was a coach. You know, I didn't have time to teach him. Normally, I wait till the kids I waited till my son was 10, you know, because coaches that teach 9, 8, 7, 5, and 6-year-olds, whoo, man, my heart goes out to them because they just, you know, they're just all over the place. And so I thank God for my grandson's coach. But, you know, TJ is doing well because, you know, we have him active and we have him understanding about growth mindset. I can do anything once I learn how to embrace challenges. Okay? Anything easy is not helping me to learn how to get smarter. Okay? And Topaz, finally, I mean within the last 3 months really, we literally just got her in a long-term facility that is going to help her. You know, after about 12 hospital stays, seriously, you know, we finally got her to where, you know, we think she's going to be all right. Okay? And so those are the things that we need to know. And, you know, I'm glad, and I want to say, you know, I support you guys, counselors, educators, you know, law enforcement people. I support you. My hat's off to you because you are, despite what they show on the news sometimes, because of the teachers and police officers, they always show the bad stuff on the news, right? But despite that, we're showing right here today that we really want to help people get better. Okay, so my hats are off to you guys when it comes to that. And just understand that NAMI, you know, that's what I'm doing now. The information that I got from my daughter is, you know, I have a meeting next week with the people up at the NAMI headquarters because I want them to understand that my sister didn't know what to do. We didn't have anybody in our family that ever went through anything like that, so she was lost. And so now we have to create programs to meet the needs of people that experience these kind of things for the first time. What are they going to do? They need to know who to call. They need to know what to do. And that's what NAMI is designed to do, is to help people learn how to get the strategies, the support that they need to be successful and effective. All right, that's it for me. If anybody got any questions, I'm here for the next few minutes to answer any questions that you may have. Any educators, counselors that have any questions, I'm here to answer those questions as best as I can. We all good?
Thank you.
All right.
I didn't get a card the last time.
Okay, yeah, man, you're right there, man. Yeah, right there.
So you'll be up at NAMI next week.
Yeah, I gotta go up there, man, and we gotta talk about, what to do, because, as we were talking, man, I heard her heart, and I heard her struggling, trying to figure out what to do, man.
I think what happened with the PowerPoint, that they're sending their family perspective where they changed it on the youth one.
Yeah, and he did say that was the new one.
Yeah.
He did say that.
That's what we're
Yeah,
doing.
because I think it's the,
gonna ask
it's
Kathleen
the
about
fire
this.
department over here in Forsyth County.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'm gonna
they
ask.
sent me.
They didn't, okay. I'm gonna ask Kathleen about that.
Okay.
Make sure we're updated.
Okay, okay.